welcome back to another episode of Find Your Way with your host, Q-chan. And as I always say, you can definitely call me Mr. Q as well. So, what do you think? I changed the setting a little bit. It was a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest, because I used to be sitting down over there and like around the white wall, and I had like this little stand for the mic. So, yeah, I had to like bend over like this, and it was just a little bit uncomfortable. So this is definitely way more comfortable. I had like a new stand over here um, for the mic. So hopefully this will make everything a bit smoother. So let's go back to what we were talking about on the previous episode. So we're gonna go to part 2 of the psychology of learning. And within the psychology of learning, the important part is that we have just lots of different subtopics for the psychology of learning. But for this, we decided to go for cognitive load. The reason why I decided to go for cognitive load is because we all go through so many different parts of our lives in which we don't understand why we get easily irritated or easily frustrated, for example. Sometimes it's like, whoa, you don't even know what happened, and you're just like, boom, explode in front of your significant other, in front of your family, and usually the people that we end up hurting are the people that we love the most, and it's because we just feel comfortable being able to download out of all of our frustrations and stuff like that and just problems. But we want to avoid that. And how can we avoid that is if you don't understand the topic of the cognitive load, I do really recommend you going to the previous episodes so you can learn the definitions of the three main ones that we talked about. So we talked about intrinsic cognitive load, extraneous cognitive load, and germane cognitive load. They all work together. However, the one that you want to avoid the most is definitely the extraneous one. The one that it has no connection whatsoever. What you're doing has no connection whatsoever with the task at all. So we talked about different examples in the previous episode, so definitely check that out in order to be able to understand this one better. So for this, we're going to start with how can we reduce the cognitive load that can help learners focus their attention and mental resources on the most important things in our daily lives. So one that I mentioned a lot on our previous episode was we need to learn how to be simple, because nowadays just people are just too serious, and I don't understand why. I mean, we only get to live once. I mean, come on, right? Let's have fun. It's like the other thing that I was saying on the previous episode. You have all of these like Japanese kids, and let's say Asian students who have a very complicated alphabet. At least for us, it's pretty easy. It's just the ABCs. Done. And in Spanish, you have a little thing that ticks on the top of a certain word to increase the intonation of that word. So, for example, we have like that we called acento, the little ticky. I don't even know how to call it, but in Spanish, it's called tilde that we add on the word. In French, you have the same thing, but that's it. It's not really that difficult if you compare it to Chinese, for example. Korean, it's a bit simpler, but still, it's just different thingies, like a little drawings for in order to communicate. And when you open a book, it's just so hard. I don't understand how children can even read. It is pretty sad. That's one thing that I feel about here in Japan is just so sad that children cannot just open any book and read it. Whereas maybe for us, if we open any book, maybe we don't understand the word, but at least we can read it. And when we read it and we don't understand the word, there's like plenty of options for us, right? Either we ask our mom or dad or grandma, granddad, or whomever, or you just look it up on the internet, or you just open a dictionary, and that's it. Done. But in Japanese, you don't understand the kanji, you're done. You're done. And like example that I was saying is like this Japanese creative person just decided to come and okay, I'm going to make kids have fun while they're learning kanji. How am I going to do that? Add poop to every example. And seriously, I do the same in my classes. Maybe a lot of you don't know, but I am a teacher. I just don't teach English. I teach all different kinds of subjects, and I do follow the IB curriculum. So how can we reduce the cognitive load? It's just make it fun, make it easy, and make it simple. Simplify complex information. So, for example, when you're learning English, a lot of us, when we are learning like parts of speech, becomes quite difficult to, like, what is an adverb, what is an adjective, what is a verb, what is a noun, what is a pronoun. You get so confused. So if you're asking your students, okay, we're going to write a small short 40-word essay, but you definitely have to add 2 adjectives, 2 verbs, and 2 nouns, kind of like, wait, what? But if you actually show an example on your whiteboard or smart board or chalkboard or whatever board that you're using, and you add like simple drawings, it would definitely reduce the cognitive load for the students. They don't really have to use that much. Another example is, say, Mark Zuckerberg, and I think it was Steve Jobs as well. That Steve Jobs used to, and Mark Zuckerberg, they dress the same way every day. The reason why is because they don't want to wake up and add cognitive load to their daily lives. So they just choose to wear a black t-shirt and jeans. Done. And it's true. It really reduces one part of your life that it might be very difficult. I would say for women, it's definitely way more difficult than it is for men. At least that's what I want to believe, but I don't know if it's true or not. But just make things simpler. Okay. Next, remove unnecessary information. So that's where like extraneous cognitive load is, like, it can be reduced by removing all the irrelevant information from instructional materials. And for us as well, you can remove so much. Say that you are at work, you finish at 6:30, you have a family to feed, so you have to go back home and you have to cook dinner. But the thing is, you don't know what you have in your fridge. You don't know what you want to cook. And the thing is, maybe all of these things that I don't know, will definitely pile up. You'll get irritated. You'll get frustrated. And if your significant other says, is dinner ready? You'll be like, let me be. You'll be pretty angry, of course. You don't want anyone to tell you, hey, where's the dinner? Give it to me now. So how can we avoid that? Definitely. And it's easy. Make a list. Make a list and decide every week or every weekend with your significant other. Decide what you're going to eat every single day. I mean, you don't have to be that hard, but definitely work together and be like, okay, if we're going to make something here called mapo tofu is the first thing that popped into my head. And you need tofu, you need the minced meat, you need different kinds of vegetables. So then you work together. Okay, who finishes at what time or who has a break at what time? You have to buy the necessary things in order to make the dinner. It just makes it easier. But the thing is, yeah, we're all humans and there's no perfect system. But remove unnecessary information. 3. Use clear and consistent formatting. This is something that I actually recently was just talking to the principal of my school. So the thing is, we have so many different kinds of documents in our Google Drive. And I'm sure anyone that works and uses Google Plus or whatever it's called, you use Google Drive. And sometimes you get a message from someone and be like, you need to go to this folder and this folder and this folder. And just like, my God, there's just so many different documents that you get lost trying to find it. And you're wasting about 5 to 10 minutes doing that. Yes or no? Most likely I'm going to get a yes. And what will happen is that's adding to your extraneous cognitive load. You start getting irritated and you'll be like, God, why can we not make this easier? Right? Who has been on that boat? I have been on that boat over and over and over again. So something that I said, and I still believe in this, is a lot of people are very creative and it's great. But depending on where you work, we don't need artists in all different kinds of works. If you are in a business setting, you don't need a beautiful formatted document that is going to be used, say, every year or every several months in... Right, you don't need it beautifully. So what I'm recommending is, if you're going to be constantly using the same document, have one that looks boring but easy to follow, and that would immediately decrease or eliminate that extraneous cognitive load. And you just know, okay, this is the document that I have to do or type, and you just start typing in. So instead of adding on that extraneous cognitive load, you're just gonna be bored and be hating what you're doing, but you're not gonna be trying to like, where is that document that from last year or like 2 years ago, 3 years ago? It's just gonna be like there's the same document over and over and over again. Make it boring, make it simple, make it consistent. Consistency is definitely what we need to pursue. Next would be, we have two more and then we'll be done. Provide scaffolding. So depending on where you work at, but at this age, maybe some of you are already managers, or if you're a teacher, you're a professor, a tutor, instructor, or whatever that you're doing, scaffolding is definitely very important. So scaffolding basically is the process of breaking down complex tasks into smaller ones. So what I was saying also, this also sounds very complicated. It's easy. Scaffolding means just being next to the student or whomever you're guiding and doing things with them. An example is a teacher could provide learners with an outline. What I was saying is, if you have a big class, and something that I was saying to you is, I go into my whiteboard and I write specifically what I want them to do. Like I told you, there's some examples some people that I've seen asking their students to do something, and then when they get it, they go like, no, 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 no. And I said, this is incredibly unfair for the student. You can't do that, right? Last one, and I would say probably the most important one, or I mean, actually, all of them are important, but minimize distractions. I've been to so many different kinds of classrooms to see like where the teacher is talking. For example, this background that I have, I feel is very distracting. So that's why I chose a white background before. But because it was hurting my back, I decided to stop and doing it, and this is a little bit more interesting. So all of that for me is like all the pictures of my beloved ones and like that. But while I'm recording myself, to be honest, it's a little bit distracting. I'm not looking at the pictures, and I don't really want to do that. But anyway, so minimize distractions in the learning environment can help reduce extraneous cognitive load. So for example, learners may be distracted by noise, by clutter, or other factors that can interfere with their ability to focus. So a lot of us, if you work in a city, for example, you will be listening to the ambulance just going dee-doo, and it's gonna be like, what? That happens to me all the time in my classroom, because I work in the middle of the city. Well, we're gonna be moving to a new campus, so that's gonna be pretty cool. So all of those distractions are gonna be gone. But yes, it's, for example, you decide that you want to start reading books. But if you are in an environment that is incredibly distracting, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work for you. Okay, so before we finish, I'm actually going to add, just for the YouTube video, not for the podcast. For the podcast, I'm going to be ending it over here. But definitely, you want to learn more about cognitive load. I'm going to be adding at least like another 3 to 4 minutes on YouTube with some pictures exemplifying basically what cognitive is and how it looks like. So definitely check that out. So thank you so much for another episode with Find Your Way with your host Q-chan, and see you next time. Goodbye. Doing for the YouTube video. So thank you so much for joining me for this part. So let's look at the screen. We were talking about cognitive load, and this is one very good example of cognitive load. We have over here the part of the brain. And this part, okay, we talked about intrinsic cognitive load. So it's basically the complexity of new information. But the key word over here that we talked about is simplifying it. Okay, simplifying it. And this is for all you caregivers out there, for all your teachers out there, is whatever that you're teaching to your students, especially for, I would say, for teachers who are in international schools abroad, teaching students that their first language isn't English. This is something that it's crucial for us in our daily lesson planning, is simplify everything. Because when you go to a school in America and everyone speaks English, it's a bit easier for the teacher to make a lesson plan. Of course, you're still going to have that high level and low level kind of students, but when you are at an international school abroad, that gap might be way, way wider than you think. Okay, so simplify things. Then we go over here to extraneous cognitive load. Okay, the one that we talked about, and we here have like that minus sign, is the one that we want to completely 100% reduce. So distracts working memory from processing new information. Our keyword, the one that we want to remember, is reduce. Okay, for anyone that is a teacher, a professor, and even at home if you're a caregiver, remember to reduce, because the way that children brains work is definitely not like ours. Theirs is like all over the way. It's crazy. It's a lot of fun though. And then we have over here germane cognitive load, which is the deep processing of new information by integrating it with previous learning. So our keyword here is maximizing. So when you're introducing something to your child, to a new student, remember to always try to retrieve that information the next class. So let's go to the next picture over here. And we have the sensory memory, working memory, and how we, when we go to our working memory, when we're learning something, it goes both ways. Okay, we can have the actual learning material, which is the good one, the intrinsic load, which is connected to what we're learning, or all of the other things that a lot of teachers use, like worksheets and stuff that are unnecessary. For example, unnecessary text, unnecessary activities, unnecessary sounds, etc., etc., etc. So there's some things that you cannot control, but that's okay. And then it goes to another one, which is the germane load, that processed information as a schema. Okay, schema is just like different things that go throughout our learning, and then this will definitely moves to our long-term memory. Okay, so let's go to a last one, and this is the one that I want to focus a lot on, is how a student might feel due to different kinds of cognitive load. So let's have over here the causes. Okay, you can be in bad mood, you can be inconsistent, confusing displays, poorly primed. And how is that going to affect the student? So bad mood is going to feel like a lot of hard work, right? Like running or any other activity. Inconsistency is like, what is going on? I don't know. And confusing display feels untrue. It's not gonna happen. This is not true, and you're just gonna have students just going somewhere in their brain. And then like the way that you time it is also for the students going to be like, I don't understand, and they're going to feel bad because you didn't do a good job explaining. Okay, so please, let's remember: simplify, reduce, and maximize. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me on this YouTube channel for the last part, and hopefully these pictures help you understand a little bit more about cognitive load. And also, please let me know how you feel about it on the comments below. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much. See you next time.